Hello BVB fans, it's Jadon here. I just want to say Happy New Year. I'm so glad to be back and I can't wait to get started. See you soon.
We can't wait to get started either. Good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. Now the Sancho deal is done, we're going to break down the numbers and analyse who's the biggest winner, Sancho, Borussia Dortmund or Manchester United. Plus, a busy week at Tottenham continues. Eric Dyer is in Munich to complete his move to Bayern. And we're expecting confirmation of Radu Draguzin's move to Spurs at any moment. And we'll be discussing Bournemouth striker Dominic Solanke's future. Is he a player in demand? We're going to start, though, with Jadon Sancho, of course, and that return to Dortmund. So, Mark, it is done. Run us through the numbers.
Yeah, it's taken some time for that man to seal his exit away from Manchester United. He last played for the club at the end of August, but finally today, confirmation that he's a Borussia Dortmund player for the next 6 months at least. We want to keep an eye on. You talk about the numbers, Mike, and they're significant as well because he was one of Manchester United's highest paid players. So the fact that he's now off the wage bill may be significant for Erik ten Hag in this transfer window if he were to recruit new players. So Borussia Dortmund are contributing a guaranteed £3 million for his wages. But, of course, that could change depending on how successful Dortmund are in the Bundesliga and the Champions League. And the extras and add-ons could equate to another £3.5 million as well. So the total package, depending on his success and the club's success, could be around £6.5 million. That's what it will cost Borussia Dortmund, which for Manchester United would be seen as potentially good business because that would include all of his wages and a small loan fee. But a lot of this depends on how successful he is and they are.
All right, yeah. Now, I posed this right at the top of the programme. Who is the biggest winner out of all of this? So, Mark, who's won?
Well, everyone will claim that they've got the best deal in this scenario. Let's start with, I guess, Jadon Sancho, who initially will say, this is great for me. I'm going home. He said he was going home. He was going to be able to play with a smile on his face. He was going back to somewhere where he'd had huge success, 137 games in his 4 seasons or so at Borussia Dortmund before, with 107 goals and assists there. That was why Manchester United spent in excess of £70 million to secure him. Therefore, he'd be saying, this is great for me. I'm getting my wages, I've had the big money move, and I'm going back to somewhere where I can play my best football. Borussia Dortmund will say, this is brilliant for us because we've sold a player for in excess of £70 million, and now we're getting him back for, at the moment, £3.5 million. It may be £6.5 million, but actually, we're getting a superstar, someone we know can do the business for us and contribute to our season for a tiny fraction of what we sold him for. And only some of that money is based on success. So they'll both be looking at it thinking, this is great for me.
All right, so how will Manchester United spin this, Michael?
Well, firstly, they'll admit that this is not ideal. But we have to remember, this fallout was from the summer. Was it maybe a week or so after the summer transfer deadline? The valuation right now for him, transfer-wise, is significantly lower. So the loan is the option if he was to leave Manchester United. I think the key as well, for Erik ten Hag, this fallout, it gets him out the door. We know he isn't part of the squad at the moment until the end of the season. It stops reporters like Mark and I asking Erik ten Hag every week, have you spoken to Jadon Sancho? It lets them concentrate on the second half of the season. Now, I'm sure Manchester United fans weren't too happy either, saying, I'm home with Dortmund. And I think many United fans may say, well, some will say, look, he didn't get enough chances. Some will say, yes, he did have enough chances. He didn't do enough. What interests me as well for Manchester United, they might look at it upstairs as well, with Sir Jim Radcliffe. You know, and Gary Neville mentioned this the other week, you know, it's a bit of a test for Erik ten Hag over the next few months. What will Manchester United look like when Jadon Sancho's loan expires? Yes, at the moment, I can't imagine him in a Manchester United shirt again. How much does football change in not just... I mean, in 6 months, Mark? You know, everything looks so different in 6 months.
But, Michael, isn't that exactly the point? You've just touched on it there, Mark. You said, oh, Sancho, he's won the lottery. Everything's going his way. He's going to be back at Manchester United in a few months. He's already given it the big one, I've come home, when he's gone to Dortmund. His contract is, what, another couple of years? So, actually, he's not a total winner, is he? Because it could go very wrong for him.
The next 6 months will be key for him individually, how he plays in the Bundesliga, how he takes to going back to his old side. But of course, potentially, as things stand, he's got to go back to Manchester United. Now, he could be going back to a very different Manchester United to the one he's leaving. There's no guarantees that Erik ten Hag will be the manager for the start of next season. We know that Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe have gone into the football club. They've got overall control of the football side of Manchester United. And of course, we'll be spending the next few days, weeks and months assessing the structure, the personnel, the way they recruit, the money they've spent, the business they've got, and the players that are currently at the football club and the money that they're earning. So therefore, Jadon Sancho could go back to Manchester United. It could be a clean slate, a blank canvas, and an opportunity with a new manager to go, right, here I am. This is where I'm going to give Manchester United my best. Or, of course, things could change. But we don't know. In football, things can change very, very quickly. And Manchester United will certainly be one of those clubs that right now could look very different when Jadon Sancho returns.
Michael, if you're a Manchester United fan, are you going to take kindly to one of your most expensive signings in the history of the club saying, I've come home, and he's gone to a club in Germany?
Probably no. Probably not. And it's not gone well. I mean, there are some supporters, I'm sure, will be siding with Erik ten Hag, siding with the player. But I think they'll all agree this has to stop. You know, this has to stop. There has to be some kind of finality, something that has to finish. And it has done. He's back at Borussia Dortmund. If he's saying he's come home, look, players say things. They say it. And in a way, you know what? We talk about winners and losers. He has won. He's gone to a club. We always say well done to players, young players going abroad. It's not easy. They're human beings. Right? I remember my first day at university, cried my eyes out. But it's tough. It's tough moving away, isn't it? But he's done it before. He knows the place. And I suppose he does feel like he's home to an extent. But look, I think the key for Manchester United in terms of the club, not just the supporters, more the club, for now, he's out of the door.
I think the funny thing is as well, all three sides will claim they've got the best deal. Manchester United will look at this and say, we've lost someone who was a high earner. There was a real problem there with the manager. He wasn't at the training ground with the first team. He wasn't in the canteen eating with the rest of his teammates. And we've got rid of this problem. And therefore, we've saved that money on the wage bill. Borussia Dortmund will say, we've got a great player for a very low fee. And he'll say, I'm getting all my money and I'm going back to where I belong. And that's where all three sides will say, this works perfectly.
Over to you, Jadon.
Yeah, absolutely.
OK, all right, that's Jadon Sancho, Manchester United. Let's talk Tottenham, Michael. Radu's drag us in. How close?
Very close. I'm waiting. I'm excited for a potential welcome video, Mike. I know there was maybe Spurs fans worried earlier, maybe, because they want the confirmation. There was worries a few days ago about Bayern Munich's late interest. But it is a matter of when the announcement will be made. Nothing to worry about.
We're expecting it today?
I would certainly think so. I think there might be a situation where confirmation from Genoa and the Jed Spence loan deal, but Ange Postecoglou will be absolutely delighted because he's mentioned to myself and my colleagues over the last few weeks and even months, Mike, we need a defender, and he's not moaned because there's been injuries, but he's basically said this can't drag. January is difficult. Tottenham don't usually buy players early in January. This is a big signing. A real positive one ahead of a huge game on Sunday. So we wait for confirmation. Stay with us throughout the evening on Sky Sports News. We'll get that confirmation, hopefully for Spurs fans in the next few hours.
Of course we will. And what about Eric Dyer going the other way? Where are we with that one?
Do you remember last Friday, Mike? And I really did. It was an eye-opener. It was an eye-opener for everyone, Mark, wasn't it? Because, look, this is a good move for Eric Dyer. We saw how happy he was. It wasn't a great few months for him. He was extremely professional. But look how happy he is. And you know what, Mike? I'm going to say it now. He deserves it. Because how many players do you get in the Premier League now that play the one club for about 10 years? Yes, he doesn't particularly fit into Ange Postecoglou's system. Yes, it's been tough. What's the reward? One of the biggest clubs in the world, Bayern Munich. And I'll tell you what, it could just work out for him. He's a very, very intelligent guy. Moving to another country will not be a problem with him. He was brought up in Portugal. So he will love this. We know he's about to meet one of his best friends in football, Harry Kane. And I tell you who else is happy as well? Tottenham. Because they've got £3.4 million for him and his contract runs out in the summer. We talk about everyone happy. I'm telling you now, Spurs will be happy and Eric Dyer will be happy. And I'm sure all Spurs fans will wish him the very best.
Yeah, so Spurs doing great business. Drag us in the door. Eric Dyer out of the door. How impressed are you with the business they are doing just at the moment, Mark?
Well, it's funny because every single Premier League side at the moment seems to have this word linked after their name, FFP. That's not been mentioned with Tottenham because they've been run so efficiently and sensibly. We know they never go into the market and spend huge sums of cash and recruit loads of players. They're always very sensible, they're wise, and they're very clever and astute with the money that they do spend. They didn't spend a great deal when Ange Postecoglou went in there over the course of the summer, but they're obviously seeing the start of an exciting project, an exciting team, and they're thinking, well, this could be the manager for the next 4, 5, 6 years. He's starting a real journey now, so we need to back him and show him our faith by giving him the right money in the transfer window to get the right type of players. You look at the players that are coming in. Obviously, Radisson's only 21, so he's at the start of his career and a hugely exciting centre-back. Timo's a different type of player. He's only 27, but a lot of experience as well. And the fact that you get business done nice and early, that shows that actually we've got a plan. We're going into this January transfer window with a plan. We know what we want to do. We've got our top 2 targets executed and sorted by the 11th of January. And therefore, by the end of the window, those players are going to be up to speed. They've been in the building. They've learnt about the manager. They've understood the tactics. And they're going to be ready to go. And I think that shows the impressiveness of the way the club has operated over the last week or two.
And they said goodbye to another long-termer, Mike. Hugo Lloris on New Year's Day went to LAFC. Eric Dyer and Hugo Lloris will be significant earners at Tottenham Hotspur. And what a replacement they got. Guilherme Vicario, he's in everyone's team of the season so far. So the recruitment is going well so far. Mickey van der Ven could be back Sunday. Timo Werner, to me, is a risk-free loan. That's cover for Heung-min Son, his participation in the Asia Cup. We talked about Manchester United Sunday, ahead of Sunday. We talked about Tottenham. What a super Sunday we've got. Manchester United against Tottenham. No Jadon Sancho, of course. Those two will be there. They look ready. Make sure you're ready. It will be a really entertaining game. Manchester United-Tottenham always is a good game.
Oh, and it should be this one even more special than usual. Right, we're going to take a break. Coming up after it, we're going to talk Newcastle. We'll also hear from Vincent Kompany on his plans for the window, and he wants to get busy. And we've got news on Dominic Solanke as well. Why would you go anywhere else? See you in a moment. Hello again, this is the Transfer Show and Mark's got a line in. What have you got, Mark?
Yeah, significant for Brentford fans because they've made a signing in this January transfer window, and very similarly to Brighton, they use a lot of data and metrics, and they have a really unique recruitment system and structure. So any players that go there, normally quite young players, are ones to keep an eye on because they do really well. And they confirm the signing on their official website of the young Turkey under-21 international, Yunus Emre Konak, from Sivasspor. This is, of course, subject to international clearance as well. He's put pen to paper on a deal that will keep him in London until 2029 with the option of a further year. But he's a young 18-year-old midfielder, and Thomas Frank has got a new player in the building. Whether he'll be with the B team first and then potentially the first team, we'll have to wait and see. But they always have a pathway right through, so another one to keep an eye on.
OK, I just want to recap the top stories today. They are significant. Jadon Sancho completed his loan move from Manchester United back to Borussia Dortmund. We're this close to confirming Radu Dragusin at Spurs. Of course, Timo Werner already in the door. Eric Dyer the other way. Michael, are Spurs done now?
I wouldn't necessarily say they're done, Mike. I think their long-term target would potentially be another box-to-box midfielder, ideally homegrown.
Conor Gallagher?
He's someone they've liked and admired for some time, and he's someone Ange Postecoglou likes a lot. But maybe it would be down to Chelsea, I think. But I wouldn't say definitely on that one. But definitely a homegrown box-to-box midfielder. But look, you know what, Mike? If Spurs fans were told maybe a few weeks ago they were going to sign a backup forward and the top central defender what Ange Postecoglou wanted in the second week of the window, ahead of a big game on Sunday, I think they'd be very happy. I mean, because everyone gets excited about deadline day deals, don't they? But sometimes your best deals are done way before. I know there's excitement on deadline day, but if they've got it done, it means they mean business and they're ready to go.
You get excited about every deal, Michael. I want to talk Newcastle. Big news coming out of Newcastle, which will affect their transfer business, Mark, so tell us.
Yeah, it's something that's been backed up by Eddie Howe, actually, because they've released their financial figures for 2023-22 season today, and there are obviously a lot of details with regards to what they've been up to. We know that Newcastle are at the start of this journey. They're looking to spend money. They're looking to win the Premier League within 5 to 10 years, and of course, that's a long project. We know that Eddie Howe has done an incredible job since he went in there. They've spent a lot of money in the transfer window, but the underlying numbers will not come as a surprise to some people at Newcastle, but some of the fans might be slightly disappointed because they lost in their latest set of financial figures £73.4 million, which works out around £200,000 a day. And now we know that under the FFP rules, you are allowed to lose money, and it's offset by the money that the owners put into the football club and, of course, the commercial money that's driven as well. There will be some good figures to come because they've had Champions League success. They got to the League Cup final last season. They've been brilliant. They've been selling out St James's Park week in, week out. The commercial revenue is up as well. But, of course, that means the money going on player wages is up, and, of course, the spending in the transfer window is up as well. Now, FFP is done over 3 season periods. Now, the final year of the Mike Ashley era, where the football club was run very tightly, very, very carefully, every single penny was scrutinised before it went out the door, is a part of the current FFP 3-year season where they look at the numbers. But, of course, that's going to drop off. And the 2 seasons we've got now are the most recent season, where they've lost £200,000 a day. Last season, where they lost £200,000 a day. It's going to affect what they can spend. Now, the CEO, Darren Eales, has been speaking as well, and he says every player has a price. So, therefore, it wouldn't shock me or surprise me if Newcastle had to sell one of their big stars between now and July to make sure they meet their FFP demands. Eddie Howe has said it week in, week out. FFP is a big factor at this football club. They're growing it, they're building it, it's going on a journey, but that takes time. You need the money to come in before you can start spending it. So therefore, Newcastle fans that are expecting a big money signing in January and loads of money spent like previous windows, it's probably very unlikely to happen. They'll be looking at loans more so than permanent signings.
I have to say, that surprises me. Does that surprise you, given they seem to have been doing everything right? They haven't gone crazy with major signings. They've built slowly and performed. Are you surprised that actually they're still having to look after the purse strings?
I suppose it's the rules, what Mark's just, laid out, Mike. And you know what? Newcastle fans will look at it and say, do you know what? When this takeover happens, when you sign Kieran Trippier, the first player through the door, in a couple of years' time, you're going to be in the top 4. And this season, you might be a little bit down, that you're just above mid-table. So, and it may be a little realisation, and just a little bit, just to say, this is going to take a long time. But ultimately, you know, Darren Hills is very highly respected. They all love Eddie Howe. They've just had a big derby win. They're in good hands.
Look at Chelsea. They've spent over £1 billion. And where are they at the moment? Yeah. They're at the start of a journey and a process, and you can't just go and spend loads of money and have success. It's something that you have to build gradually. And even then, there's no guarantees. And that was one of the things that really sort of raised my eyebrows when they were linked with Dominic Solanke in this window, because, A, Dominic Solanke is not only a top-class player playing really well, he's the highest-scoring Englishman in the Premier League. He's got 12 goals in the top flight with a goal in the Cup as well. But the price on his shoulder, if Bournemouth were to sell him, which they don't want to, would be in excess of £80 million. Newcastle don't have that type of money. And you'll speak to the Bournemouth owner, who's a very wealthy guy, and again, another club that's run very sensibly and sustainably. They will not entertain any offers for their prized asset. He's the jewel in the crown at Bournemouth. He's had a brilliant season under Andoni Iraola. And when you look at what he's done and where he's come from and the situation that Bournemouth are currently in, no chance he'll leave. As of now, they have had no formal offers or contact with regards to Dominic Solanke, despite what's been reported in terms of Newcastle's interest.
OK, that's interesting. So it looks like Newcastle are going to be quiet. Vincent Kompany, though, is hoping he can add to his Burnley squad this month. They play Luton tomorrow night. They're 19th, 5 points from safety.
There's a big chance we do something, you know, that we strengthen on a couple of positions. I want to just manage expectations in terms of, I think, what we can do at this moment in time. It's probably going to be difficult to do the real immediate game changes, but we can, I think, always use a little bit of extra strength in the squad just in case something happens as well. And players that we think at this level can help us, should be able to help us, yeah.
So Burnley want reinforcements to stay in the Premier League. Right, I'm going to run through a couple of names. We always run out of time on the show. Michael, Arnaud Danjuma, what's going on with him?
We can't have a transfer window without talking Arnaud Danjuma, can we? I mean, but look, it's a player highly regarded around Europe. Now, Lyon, we understand, are ready to sign him on loan. Remember, he's with Villarreal. That's his parent club, but he's currently with Everton, so they need Everton to agree to that. Whether they do, we'll wait and see. Obviously, a lot of big games coming up in the Premier League and a cup replay, so that is very much a wait and see.
Mark, David Datro Fofana.
Yeah, was on loan at Union Berlin, recalled by Chelsea. Sevilla are interested in the striker, so it looks like he might be heading back out on loan after coming in on loan.
OK. Hannibal, Mark. We've been talking about Hannibal throughout the window. What's going on there?
Yeah, Manchester United still in talks with Sevilla. We know that there was a passing interest from Everton as well, but at the moment it seems like Sevilla are in the driving seat. It will be a loan with an option in the summer, and Manchester United triggered that extra year on his contract as well, so they've got a little bit of security. The talks continue between the two clubs.
Very quickly, before we go, we've been talking a lot about Tottenham. Do other clubs need to do some business to keep it? Because if Tottenham get into the top 4, someone's not going to get in the top 4. So, do other clubs, Michael, need to do something?
I think every club would probably say yes. It's whether they can or they can't, as Mark has laid out with FFP. It's, you know, it's director of football, head of recruitments have their jobs are just as important now as the managers / head coaches. It's so important to get these deals right. We just saw Gabriel Jesus potentially returning from injury. Does that stop Arsenal even thinking about bringing a new striker in?
We will see. So much to talk about at 7 o'clock with the Transfer Show. We're back. Sky Sports News back after the break with the rest of the sports news. We'll see you.